Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. In this video I want to show you guys a knife called the Sprocket, and this is a collaboration between custom knife maker Jerry McGinnis and a newer company on the scene that is Monterey Bay Knives. And so I do need to spend a moment talking about Monterey Bay Knives because some of you guys may have never heard of them, or perhaps you've heard of them but you know nothing about them, and so you may have concerns as to whether this company is going to be around or who's behind it. So hopefully the information will help alleviate some of those concerns. But Monterey Bay Knives is a company that was formed by three friends. You have Sanford Owen of Carmel Cutlery, which is a knife shop in California. You have Ray Laconico, who's a custom knife maker and more recently a knife designer who's collaborated with a lot of companies. And then lastly, you have Eric Garza, who is also a knife designer, but he worked at Olamic Cutlery for a while, and he does some of the custom modifications to these production knives you see. So anyways, those are the three friends who started Monterey Bay Knives. And when they came up with the idea for the company, instead of leveraging one of the main overseas manufacturers, such as We Knives, Kaiser, or Riot, they basically started working with some of the subcontractors that those three large companies use to complete work. And it's a very complicated process, but oftentimes if there's a big job coming in or they want to speed up production, they will leverage some of the subcontractors to do specific parts of the knives, but then the quality control comes back to them and they're responsible for it. So anyways, a lot goes on overseas, but they decided to utilize one of the subcontractors to get these knives made, and they felt like they'd have more control over the design, the execution. They'd have more control over prototyping, and they felt like they could bring a better quality production knife, essentially, and kind of in a way cut out the middleman, as it was explained to me. And value-wise, these do bring fairly strong value. These are retailing for $225, and they have all premium materials. You have ceramic bearings, a ceramic detent, M390 blade steel. You have carbon fiber, full titanium. They're both $225. So, again, $225. It is a lot of money, but these days, a lot of the overseas production knives are much closer to $300 or perhaps even over $300. So, a lot of value for those materials, especially when it's a collaboration with perhaps a more prolific, knife maker, knife designer like Jerry McGinnis. So anyways, that's who's behind Monterey Bay Knives. That's conceptually what they wanted to do and what they're looking to accomplish. And they've released a couple models with Ray Laconico, who's obviously part of the company. They have Jerry McGinnis. They're working on a new design with Peter Carey presently. So, certainly well-known people, well-known designers, well-known custom knife makers, and they're able to basically make these or get these designs from them based on the friendships they've had with them beforehand. So anyways, that's kind of the company. Hopefully that gives some context. Now that I've rambled for long enough, let's really get into the knife here, but I felt that was important. So I believe this is the pouch they ship in. These ones are on loan from my friend Sanford, so they were both just kind of in this thing. But let's jump into the specs, and we'll have to talk about the different weights here, of course. But let's see here. Size comparisons, we have the Kershaw Dividend, we have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and it's shorter than the Para 2. But obviously you do have more cutting length. So blade length is 3.5 inches. Handle length is about 4.5. Overall, it's kind of 7.75, 7.3 quarters. Blade thickness is coming at the standard 160 thousandths there, or 0.16 inches thick. So we're next to the Para. I think that's the same blade thickness here. Behind the edge, it is coming down to a pretty thin edge. I don't have my calipers near me. Yes, I do. All right, well, I should have been a little bit more prepared. We're just going to roll with it here because I do want to know what the thickness behind the edge is for you guys. So 0, good. Okay, 0.03. So it is thicker behind the edge. That's where I'm at. Than a pair of 2. So a little bit thicker behind the edge than a pair of 2. So food for thought. Let's see, what are some of their specs? Again, as I mentioned, M390 blade steel. Rockwell hardness, they're claiming about 59.5 to 60 on the Rockwell hardness scale. Again, carbon fiber titanium. We do have a 3D milled clip here on the lock side. The handles are primarily flat, just some flat handles here, but with some really aggressive contouring on the sides that, again, is very much in line with Jerry McGinnis's design. So definitely comfortable, and then, you know, a little bit less expensive manufacturing, going full contouring on the handles, but just as comfortable. So I like that. 3.5 ounces on the carbon fiber model and about 4.3, if I recall, on the titanium model. The weight is noticeable. You know, at the 3.5 ounces, I feel like it's light enough to get away with in slacks. You may agree or disagree, but I've carried it in slacks and it works pretty well. The titanium one, this one's more reserved for jeans, so those are some of the differences between the two here. Now I primarily carried the carbon fiber one, so let's focus on that one for a minute here. Do have a stonewash blade. We do have a slight recurve in the blade as well, but I haven't had any cutting trouble. It's functioned fairly well for me. Got some jimping on the spine. Typically with my larger hand size, I'm just resting on the spine of the blade, and my thumb drops right in there, so that's been very comfortable. Secondary bevel, nice and clean. Came perfectly sharp, really no concerns there. And then, you know, here's where the edge terminates, which is in front of the handle. So if you are using a fixed angle system, all good news there. I'm not sure how the recurve is really going to function for some of you guys on the fixed angle systems, but you know, again, you can always reach out to Monterey Bay Knives if you need help with sharpening or any warranty work or concerns. So there's that. The flipper tab, a little bit proud. You know, obviously it sticks up from the handle. Again, this is in line with Jerry's kind of standard flipper setup, I guess we can call it. But we do have texturing all the way around, and I've never slipped on this thing. And essentially the geometry, as I'll call it, of kind of a slightly sloped but larger flipper tab flips amazingly well. Let's take a look at the smoothness here. So it is drop shutty. This one is super smooth. I've carried this one a lot more. The titanium one, slight difference in the feel. Not as drop shut as the carbon fiber one, but very smooth. Again, I think I just haven't really broken this one in because I haven't carried it. But another, I guess, point or difference between the two here is that the carbon fiber one is perfectly balanced right at kind of the first finger choil there. Not that there's really a choil, but right behind the flipper tab. The titanium version is a little more heavy towards the back end, so I'm a little bit further back here. So balance point on carbon fiber here, balance point on the titanium is here. So again, not a huge deal, but you guys watch for the minutia. So there's that. Let's look at the handles here. Again, pretty much flat, but look at the contouring. Carbon fiber backspacer on this one. It's sitting a little bit proud of the show scale, but mated fairly well. It's perfectly mated here, so yeah. The screws do also sit a tiny bit proud, but they are rounded, so they don't catch on anything. Torx hardware. Obviously the holes are stylistic, but do reduce some weight, especially on the titanium version. And we've got some nice flex here to the pocket clip. In slacks, the pocket clip can catch a little bit more on the slacks here. See where the lock bar cutout ends, and that begins on jeans. It's never caught. So again, additional food for thought. Perfectly centered. Lock up, and it does have a stainless steel lock insert and an over travel stop, you guys see there, but about 25%. It's been perfectly solid, no lock rock, no problems whatsoever. So anyways, that is this one. Let me see if there's anything else that's different. Obviously we have a titanium back spacer here on the titanium version. Again, the titanium one, they've customized a couple of these, or Eric Garza has, and he's done some really nice mod work on some of these. And again, since they're done by someone within the company, you know, they're fully warranted. So you don't have to worry about, you know, if I send it off to someone, do I void my warranty? You can get some really cool ones from them with the warranty still intact, which is very nice of them to do, especially if some of you guys are still in that stage where you love to mod everything. And believe me, I've been through those stages. So yeah, I really have no concerns, you know, about the warranty or the company or the people behind it. I've known Sanford for a number of years, a solid guy. He's someone that you would be more than happy to just hang out with at a show, grab a drink with. Ray's a little more reserved, not as outgoing as Sanford, but by all accounts, he's a good guy too. And I haven't had as much interaction with Eric, but you know, if Sanford likes them, then they're probably okay in my book. So anyways, guys, I will leave a link to their Instagram and their website down below if you want to take a look at these models. Again, at $225, I think they're bringing really strong value. You're basically paying Kaiser money for more like Riot quality. So for some of you guys who know what that means, then that'll make perfect sense. To paraphrase for people who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, they punch above their weight. I think the quality and the execution is very, very good. And the action is definitely on par with the custom McGinnis knives that I've handled. It has a very similar feel. And I asked Sanford, I'm like, how did he get it so close? And he said, well, basically, every prototype went to Jerry, and Jerry got to give the final okay. So he made him keep doing it until it was right, and I think they certainly got it right. It has a very similar feel. Now, again, kind of delving back into it, these are overseas. These are produced in China. If you don't really like overseas knives and you're like, hey, I have to have USA-made stuff, Jerry has, I believe it was called the Pro line. So he did some mid-techs that he produced all in-house on, you know, in his facility. And they were made in the U.S. completely by him. They were a little bit more basic, not like his really nice customs, but they also had amazing quality, amazing action. But those ones are probably more to the tune of like, I think $550. I think I've seen them on sale for as low as perhaps $300, but that may have just been a one-time thing. But anyways, if you're thinking, hey, I like these, but it has to be USA made, you can look at Jerry's Pro line. You can look at Jerry's customs. His customs are going to be more to the tune of probably $1,000 or $1,200 to start. So anyways, overall, the design is good. Feels great in hand. The execution is good. I think it brings home some pretty good value. So I think this is a strong finish to the end of 2019, and I look forward to seeing some of the other stuff these guys do with you know, some of those more well-known or perhaps unknown makers in the future. So thanks for watching. Links below. You can follow me on Instagram for daily content. Also, Epic Snuggle Bunny. I'll see you guys soon.